Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and we got another great one for you today. Today, we connect with Luke Caudillo of Gladiators Unleashed. He's a former MMA fighter that is now retired and runs kind of like a social media empire. Through Gladiators Unleashed, he's got the Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and of course the podcast. But Luke started as an MMA fighter, and now all he wants to do is hunt. So we got him on to tell some of his favorite hunting stories, and he does not disappoint. So I want to say thank you very much to Luke for coming on, and thank you guys very much for tuning in. Make sure you share the podcast with at least one other person so we can keep this thing growing. And now let's go ahead and let Luke tell you some of his stories. Thank you. All right, Luke. Welcome to the Hunting Stories podcast, brother. How you doing?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. It's kind of nice being on somebody else's podcast, you know?
I bet, man. I bet. Yeah. I'm glad we finally connected. I think I told you before the show, I've been listening to your podcast for a while, and I'm sure that like when people realize who we're talking to here, they'll immediately think of kind of your setting because you have a video podcast because it's iconic. It's what I think of when I think of podcasts. Yeah. So I'm excited to have you here, man. Why don't we kick this thing off for maybe the folks that don't know who you are? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, man. I'm my name is Luke or Lucas Caudillo. For all my brown brothers, it's Caudillo out there actually. But I'm originally from Nebraska. I live out now in Colorado. I was a fighter for 14 years, professional fighter in UFC, international, all of that, and then I got into coaching. But after I did that, my whole fight deal, I hunted my whole life, but I didn't know what I was going to do after fighting, man. I had no idea. I didn't have a whole lot of money saved up, but I knew that I wanted to be in, have something to do with the outdoors, and I didn't know what it was, but obviously I got into it. I started a show called Gladiators Unleashed, and I did that, and, the companies wanted more content. So I was like, what am I going to do? And COVID hit, closed my gym down. I got a detached garage shop, which is now a studio. I made it into a podcast, and I just called my buddies. Had Aaron from CafaroCast there.
Yeah,
Cafaro, he helped me out a lot. And I'm obviously friends with guys like Joe Rogan, and from the Fight Game, and I had some great help promoting my stuff and guests to be on it, and that's what I do now. Is I'm a podcaster now, bro. Yeah, it's crazy to say that, but yeah, that's
right.
It.
Yeah, there's not many people that like can just be a podcaster, so it's pretty cool that you've managed to pull that off. And most people are doing this as a hobby. It's a lot of hard work, so it's definitely a full-time job, man.
Yeah, it started as a hobby, and and everybody wanted more, so I was like, okay, how am I going to do this once a week? A couple of months. I had no idea, but as much as the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I could do one a week, and I'll just try to put it out once a week, try to put new content out once a week. And man, I'll tell you what, for the first, I don't know, I would say 50, 60 podcasts was pretty good because I could have, the same people back, some new people in and out. But like, I always try to do like the in-person, in-house podcast, have them in the set. And sure. That's fucking tough, man.
I bet, man.
It's hard, especially in the winter months up here. It's
never
tough.
mind just like the investment in like gear, right? Like I just have people log in on their phones on Zoom and I'm good to go. But I've had multiple people go like, let's get together and let's do a podcast. And I'm like, I don't even know how to do that. I haven't even looked into it. And I definitely don't have the equipment. So
it's crazy because like when I first looked into it, I was like, man, the people wanted me to spend this and that. And I look back at that list, 3 years later, I'm like, well, I should have just pulled the trigger, and did it because that's what I'm in now. But I mean, you never know. I mean, you don't really know what's going to happen when you start something. You always want the best, know. I cannot explain, like, honestly, like, I cannot explain like how thankful I am for all the listeners and all the, the comments I get on, thanks for doing you and being you and not,
For sure.
just, being raw, and I think that was the difference between me and a lot of podcasts. And that's the one thing I always try to tell guys, that I get a chance to be on your podcast. I'm like, be you, man. That's what separates everybody from all the other shows. You know what I mean? Like, they're all good content. Everybody has a podcast now, right? What
Yeah,
separates
for
you?
sure.
You know, and I
You know
think,
what separates me, Luke, is I'm probably the worst hunter that started a podcast, and I
oh
own
no, oh no, me and you can kill it, bro. Me and you can we can fucking we can do some things, bro.
Yeah, right. We can not shoot all sorts of shit.
Yeah, I'm a bow hiker.
Right. That's all I've ever done. Kill one turkey with my bow. I've been doing it for 5 years. So,
Nice.
uh,
That's all right though. That's all right.
yeah, yeah, and I'm pretty sure I missed. He just happened to put his head in the way. So, but hey, that's
Yeah, it
neither here
happens.
nor there. Yeah,
It's
but
yeah,
so how long you been hunting, man? So, like,
man.
you went into MMA, and then you're like, I want to do something in the outdoors. So obviously, the outdoors is something that had been with you for a while. So how long have you been doing that?
Well, so like as a kid, I always hunted in Nebraska, and I had the luxury of, my cousin had a farm, river ground, and everybody knew my dad. So I got pretty good access back then,
Yeah,
to hunt anywhere I wanted in Nebraska, which is all private land anyways.
yeah, that's
And
awesome.
so I got spoiled in that. And when I moved out here, I didn't know anything about OTC. I didn't know anything about elk hunting. I just didn't hunt. I was focused on, and one, I was too broke as a fighter to even think about hunting. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, I just didn't have time for it. And um, so later, when I started making a little bit of money in fighting, I got back into hunting. And I've always wanted to bow hunt, right? Like, even in Nebraska, but I never did in Nebraska. And I had a bow that I bought at a garage sale back in Nebraska, and it was a bear bow, and I shot carp with it. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I took it to a pro shop up here, and I took it in there, and I said, "Hey, can you make this into a fucking elk killing, deer killing bow?" And Phil Mendoza, guy from No Limits, he goes, "You're
Yeah.
that fighter, right? You're like you that fighter." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." They're like, "All right." He sets me down like 5, 6 bows on the table, and I'm thinking my broke ass is not buying any of these bows, right? I'm not doing it, man. And he goes, "Would you be interested in a sponsorship from us on if we sponsor you with a bow?" And in my head, I'm like, "What? No way, dude. You don't even know me, right? Like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
this
You're
is
like, I've never
unreal."
actually shot a bow before. Like, what is this guy
Yeah, I mean,
trying to do right now?
I've never shot a bow like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And he was like, "Yeah, just try it on." And he goes, "See which one you like," and blah, blah, blah. And man, I'm telling you what, I bet that was at least 13, 14 years now
no
ago.
shit.
Yeah. And I've been shooting a bow since then. And, it was crazy. My first year, man, I hit a grand slam. I shot an elk, a deer, a turkey. I shot everything, and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
this shit's easy. I'm a pro. I'm an OG, right?" Well, next year I didn't wah wah wah, but it's just been off and on, and it's one of those things. Like, it's what you like about bow hunting, though. And don't get me wrong, I bow hunt or rifle hunt still now, and I find it just as enjoyable as I do as a bow hunting. So
for sure.
um, that's what I mean. I just did that, so I would say I had a lot of buddies that helped me out in this elk hunting world, um, and when I finally made enough money where I could get a lease and a private ground or whatever, I took it up because I did so much OTC and I hated it because I kept on calling in hunters or running in.
Yeah,
It just was not fun anymore to me.
yeah.
And
That's where I am right now. It's just I've only hunted over the counter basically, and
yeah, and that's
whatever.
what
I'd
most.
rather be in the woods than at my desk.
Yeah,
But
and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not knocking on it, and like there's some guys out there that could fucking do it. My schedule with my life and just you know like right now, man, my pride and joy is my kids and my wife, right? Like I got to
For
make
sure.
sure that I'm trying to be the dad around, I'm not trying to be selfish. When I fought, man, it was all about me. I was a selfish asshole. You know what I mean? Like I really was. So when I hung it up, I said I wouldn't be that guy. I want to be all in, be a dad. I want to do it all. Um, and that's what I'm trying to do. But I'm trying to juggle, this outdoor life and, obviously make money for my family. Um, be a coach still. It's hard. So like if I get a chance to hunt a landowner voucher or go on a friend's ranch, I'm gonna take that over OTC all day long,
Oh,
man.
of course. You got to take the opportunity, right? It'd be
Yeah,
stupid not to.
yeah, and that's just it. Like, am I a rich man? Like I was talking about this last night on the podcast. I'm not a rich man at all. I'm rich in a lot of different ways. Like my kids are healthy. I'm
Yeah.
healthy. I got a archery range right in my backyard. Like that's rich to
Yeah.
me. You know what I
Get to
mean?
do some shit that you love for a living.
Yeah, and like my priorities are like, okay, if it's gonna cost me this much money to go elk hunting, I'm gonna do it because this is my time, like my vacation, my deal. I'm gonna do it. So, guys, they'll go out OTC and they'll spend, a full week away from their family, if not longer, and not even see a goddamn elk. Not saying that's wrong because I've been that guy and I've had plenty of good experience doing that.
Hmm.
But I would rather have the odds of, getting into elk every day and letting my shot be the judgment of me being successful. You know what I mean?
For
And
sure. Yeah.
that's just my little 2 cents on it. But honestly, man, I love hunting now, and that's what I want to do until I grow. Some guys want to golf all the year long, and do this and that. I want to hunt, and that's my deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I was never much of a golfer. I'll be honest. I went a couple times and, I see the value of golfing, but man, those
Yep.
people that are really into golfing are
Yep.
obnoxious. And since I've started hunting, I'm like, why the hell would anyone go golfing when they could go
Yeah.
hunting? So
Yeah, man,
I'm
that's
with you,
just
man.
how I am. I got so many buddies that like to golf. Like Justin, my fighter, he wanted to golf tomorrow and with the coaches, and I'm like, I'll pass. I,
Yeah. You're like,
I'm
if I have that time, I'm going turkey hunting
yeah,
instead.
I'm just ready to set up my 3D range here,
Oh,
and
yeah.
just have fun. Like that's more my cup of tea. But don't get me wrong, man, I like golfing, but it's just not really what I'm really passionate about. It's not like if I'm gonna leave the family for a while, I'm not gonna be like, I want to go play 18 holes, and be shit faced all day. You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
I just can't do it.
Plus, there's more of a I don't know. It's like it's good for the soul to get out into the woods and go hunting. And I always find that when I get back to my family after a week long trip or even a 3 day trip, that
Yeah.
like I miss them and I love
Yep.
them more and I appreciate them more. Which
Yep.
I know that when I've golfed, all I've ever done is come home and been drunk. So
Yeah. 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 It's funny. It's like a little reset, right? When you go
yeah,
out and it's just that's why I always like tell my wife, man, like go out with your friends, go do something, go have whatever, because it's what I need sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, man. I love my kids, but goddamn, it's sometimes nice to have a little peace and quiet, right? Like to
hell yeah,
reset, think, and then when you come back, you're like, damn, I do miss these, little fuckers.
right?
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we got kids around the same age. I have a 4-year-old boy, and God, I love him. But sometimes, man, I just got to get away.
Oh
So
yeah. So yeah, I got a
yeah,
7 and a 3-year-old, and it's nonstop, man, nonstop.
yeah. Yeah, I got 4 and 1, so I'm
Okay.
chasing you.
Oh shit, you're in it then.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But
Yeah.
man, Luke, we're getting off track, and we always do. We came here to hear some of your stories, some of your hunting
Yeah.
stories. So, rather than
Yeah.
talk about the therapeutic nature of hunting and the beer-related nature of golf, let's dive into this, man. So, why don't you why don't you set the stage for your first story, man?
Man, I tell you what, I have plenty of stories, and I just, when you reached out to me about these stories, I was like, man, I got so many different stories because I've been on so many different trips. I was lucky enough to be on so many trips, especially me filming with Gladiators. And I don't even know where to start because I have so many cool and funny stories, but like right now, the top one is, I went out, I took Justin Gaethje out, and he's like Mr. Superstar in the UFC world right now, and we went to his hometown in Arizona, and we were hunting javelina with our bows.
Oh, hell yeah.
And well, if anybody's ever hunted javelina, like they're not the smartest animal, and they're just
They're angry, aren't they? Angry little
yeah.
bastards.
So we got into them, and we were like 30 yards from them, and we could have just smoked them. But I'm running the camera right behind him, and we've had numerous encounters of these javelina, and I was like, wait, and he's drew back so much, like we're there with his buddies from high school, and we're there, and like I just wanted like epic content, right? And
Yeah.
so we were talking. I was like, dude, let's just have a bunch of them just come into us like 5 yards and just hear him squint, and we can't miss, right? And he's like, dude, let's just shoot one and get one down first. And I was like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And well, so I went out first and I got about, I don't know, 40 yards to one. And I'm just gonna say, like, the biggest tornado came in and blew my arrow about 5 yards above his back. And I missed,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So I was like, dang, I missed. And they ran off. So we got on another herd. And it was Justin's turn to shoot. And he was all like, I'm gonna show you how it's done, this and that. So I'm videotaping it, and he's trying to help me out to make content and videos, and we get these pigs, and we move up, and they're starting to feed right towards us, and they're like 20 yards away right now, and there's some big bastards just rolling through, and man, we're just going, and I'm like, wait, and he finally draws back at like 15 yards, and I said, wait, and then all of a sudden we get about 12 yards, and he looks at me. He pulls his eye away from the peat and looks at me. And I said, wait, let's get him closer. And he fucking was like shaking his head at me like, oh, come on. And he was thinking I wasn't in focus, or now that I know the story, right? And I just wanted to be closer and just have him hammer one real close, right? And I don't know what happened, but those javelinas just veered off to a straight 60-yard dash, opposite direction. And he looked at me, and I swear to God, I will never live it down, because he wanted to beat my ass so bad for not letting me. And I wanted content. He was like, "What was wrong with the camera?" And I was like, "Nothing. We got it." He was like, "So why did you tell me not to shoot?" I said, "I thought it was going to get closer." He goes, "It was 12 yards away." And I was like, "I know, dude." And that was just a dumb mistake on my part, right? Like, just dumb. But I'm not known to be the brightest or the sharpest knife in the box. You know what I mean? Like, but it was fun. We got on
my most entertaining friends are not the smartest people.
Yeah.
So it's hang out with
facts,
fun people.
right? It's facts. So we went back to camp, and everybody gave me shit because he kept on telling me not to shoot, and I thought it was him. And everybody was like, "Why didn't you shoot?" And he was like, "I thought it was the camera problem." And yeah, so I never lived that one down from him. And every time we go back to Arizona, it's like, I'm not listening to you. I'll do me. So it's good,
Yeah.
But man, like, I have so many stories, man. Like, man, there's
let me do this, Luke. Let me tell you a story. You reminded me of a hog story that I've actually told on this podcast once before, but I think you'll appreciate it. I'm hunting in South Texas, and this is 2020, 2019, somewhere in there, and I found a loophole in the public land law. So basically, rivers are public land in Texas, but they don't actually have to have water. They just have to be navigable. Navigable means like 30 feet wide.
Yeah, so they're like dried up.
Yeah. So we find ourselves a dry river in a pretty hot area, and we go down there, we put up cameras and blah, whatever. So we're walking this river, and trying to get something to happen. And we make sure everything's okay with the game board. And you also have to hunt with a shotgun, double out
Uh-huh.
buckshot. Like that's the only options for when you do this.
Okay.
So we go in a few miles, nothing happens. So we're walking out, and we're walking out, and so this particular river, it's not like the bank is 2 feet; it's like 40 feet tall banks. So we're basically in a tunnel.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and because the South Texas, you can get some pretty big trees, some of those oak trees and the
And,
brush.
and what time of the year was this?
Oh, it was deer season, so it was like
Okay.
between November and January somewhere.
Okay.
It's hard to tell in Texas because it's always warm. I just remember it being
Yeah,
hot.
yeah.
But either way, so we're coming out, and the way that we got in is you also have an easement off of these roads. So you got 10 feet off the road that you can park, and it's technically public easement. So we parked on the side of the road, and then you walk to a bridge, and then you drop down into this ravine, this river, and we hiked it. So we're hiking back, and we see a hog, and oh shit, I'm not used to hunting at night, so I'm like, shit, what do I do? Oh yeah, we can shoot this thing, and it books it. Okay, whatever. So we just go back
Yeah.
up, and the hike from the bottom of the river to the road is a scramble up a bunch of rocks. So we unload our
Yep.
shotguns, and we're kind of scrambling up this. We get to the top, and there are 15 hogs. I don't know if they're hotline or just hogs, just like all around my truck, like literally surrounding my truck. So I'm like, well, what the
No
hell?
way.
And so I'm sitting there, and they start like, so I'm like, well, I'll call the warden. I was like, I'm pretty sure I can't shoot these things on the side of the highway. And I'm like, but I'll call the warden. So I call the warden. Hey, how you doing? And we talked a few times before, and I'm like, yeah. So I got a question for you. Can I shoot hogs that are right off the side of the highway? He's like, no, you can't. And I'm like, well, they're surrounding my truck, and at that moment, like they start charging us. So I don't know
Uh-huh.
what's going on with these hogs, but they're just like charging us, and I'm like, officer, like, what do I
Yeah.
do? And he's like, defend yourself. And I'm like, so I can shoot him. And I'm like having this conversation while I'm like running around in my
Oh
truck
fuck.
being chased by pigs.
Yeah.
And then my buddy and I realized that we didn't put any slugs or double out buck back in our shotgun, so we're literally like just being chased. And eventually the
Oh
hogs lose
man.
interest and run off into the brush. But like we were just,
Dude.
I would say we were probably 5 yards from these pigs, and they
Wow.
were bluff charging us. It was just the most ridiculous
Yep.
thing ever. And the warden was just like, yeah, in the future, always defend yourself, but you can't otherwise shoot on a highway. And I was like, all right, now I know. So
Yep. Yep. Well, it's always, I'm just like you, man. I'd rather be safe than sorry. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
um, there was this time where I went back to Nebraska. I grew up in Nebraska, and I had a tag that I thought I knew the unit forever, and I got busted because I shot a deer in the wrong unit. And I said, and you got to realize, like, I grew up in this town. I knew all the game wardens and everything, and I was like,
yeah,
dude, what the hell? When did this happen? And they were like 2 years ago. Well, I haven't hunted it for 2 years, and that's when they changed it. And I got in trouble for it, right? And I was
yeah,
like, man, I never, which to me was the best lesson in my life. Like it really was. Like you could talk shit, this and that, like, um, I'm gonna do this or whatever. Getting caught by, a correction officer is scary because I love to hunt so much, right? Like
yeah,
so like when I got popped, I was like, okay, I deserve it because I didn't know the rules and I didn't know I should have known better, right? And they slapped me with the fine, and I took it on the chin. And I said to myself, I said, I'll be damned if I'll be that guy ever again, right?
yeah,
Like I said,
for
no,
sure.
you know what I mean? Like for one, I just love it. I love hunting so much, right? And I said I would never do this again. So like I literally have no problem calling the CBW and just uh, bugging the fuck out of them. If I don't know the answer, I'm gonna call them,
Yeah.
and I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's probably the best thing to do. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Dude, look, I almost did that exact same thing. Was antelope hunting this year,
uh-huh.
and I went down way down south near La Junta and had a
Uh,
great time doing it. And then elk season, I actually got hurt, and so I was sitting there, and I'm like, well, I think I can't go into the mountains and chase elk, but I think I can go into the plains and walk around with my bow and not shoot antelope, but at least I can pretend like I'm hunting.
yeah,
But my buddy goes, yeah, there's an over the counter unit up north near Fort Collins. So I'm like, all right, I'll go check it out. And so he gives me the unit number, and I just head up and I start going around. I get a stock on an antelope, and I get to 20 yards. I just misjudged. I thought he would be in front of me.
Oh
He ended up
damn,
being
got it real
like
close.
yeah. He ended up being about 45 yards to my or 45 degrees of the angle to my right. So I just came up at the wrong spot, in his
Hmm.
line of sight when I didn't plan on being. Otherwise, he would have been a dead antelope. And then, I hike around the rest of the day, drive around, and I run into some other hunter finally. And I'm like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, it's, I've decided to burn my points on this unit. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Burning points on this unit? It's over the counter. He's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, I was that close. Like, arrow knocked. If I had
Yeah.
just come up 20 feet over, I would have killed an antelope in a unit that I absolutely should not have.
Yep.
But I trusted my buddy that he said it was over the counter. I didn't look it up. So,
Yeah. And that's
to
what
those
I'm saying.
listening,
Like,
do the
yeah.
research yourself, right?
Do
Don't trust
your
anybody.
research. It's a facts, man. And it's cool because I I think it's cool that you actually aren't scared to say it, because we're only human, man. And
Yeah.
like some of these guys, they'll try to hide it and do this and that. And like, why, man? Like, we're only fucking hunters, man. We all
Yeah.
make mistakes. That's why I always say, I learn from my mistakes. I don't do that shit. Find out what your unit is, what the rules is, this
Yep.
and that. But I mean, that was just the best that, that you want to hear a hunting story. That was it, man. Like, that was the best lesson I've ever learned to this day. And I'm 42 years old, and every day, every time I have a tag, I make sure that I'm gonna fucking, cross my I's, dot my T, or
Yeah.
cross dot and cross my T's. So I don't want to be that guy, because I like to hunt so much. You know what I mean? And especially now that I
Absolutely.
have kids, I want to bring them in the world of hunting to hunt and experience that. You know what I mean? So I always just, d- is it nice to have like a grip and grin and this and that? Hell yeah. But I'd rather just have a good time being out there and not have that before I get into the poaching mode or whatever.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just,
Lose your
to
license, lose
me,
your truck, lose all that
yeah,
shit.
dude.
Yep.
I just like it too much to fuck it up, for one animal. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but like I said, that when I did that, it was not a pretty thing that happened. But like, now that I'm older and wiser, I was like, that was the best experience I could have as a hunter, is getting popped,
For sure. And I learned that
and
same lesson just slightly less painfully, but like I think
yeah,
about it all
yeah,
the
for
time.
sure, yeah. And now right? Like, like, oh, I better fucking do my homework, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And because I didn't get in trouble, I can still yell at my buddy and be like, what the hell's your problem? Why'd you tell me that was over the it's his fault. I mean,
Yeah.
it's my fault for not doing due diligence, but it's his fault for pointing me there. He had no idea. So he's
Yeah.
taking
And like, what you're saying is, like, when you came out of that riverbed and you had pigs everywhere, you were hunting there.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to not just to be like, all right, I'm gonna fucking smoke one of these, and you have to know the fucking rules. You know what I mean? And you did the right thing, but now That's what I'm saying. It's like
Yep.
it's better to ask than get that fucking fine on you. You know what I mean? So
Truth. That's the truth, especially in
it,
Texas, man.
it,
Especially in Texas.
you know, uh, here's a story. This is a funny story. So
All right.
I'm hunting elk, and I get into this bull that's probably a good 6x6, big bull. You got to realize, like, I've only shot like raghorns and spikes pretty much as for a bull, with my bow. And I finally get into this fucking bull, and man, I get about 45 yards and he's screaming, and I don't know what happened, but my fucking nerves just kicked in, and I literally had to take a dump. I had to take a shit so bad when it happened. So I was like, okay, he doesn't know I'm there. How can I back out of here and I was like, oh, screw it. I can just wait. I can pinch it, hold it, and shoot this thing, let it run out. And I'm hunting by myself at the time. Thank God, because man, I'm telling you, man, I would have never lived this down. And I can't believe I'm talking about this. I never even talked about this on my show. And literally, I get back, so I push it back in my guts, right?
Yeah, you pinch it off.
And I'm literally like, cool. So I get my rangefinder out, and it's 47 yards, and he keeps walking towards me, and he's screaming, and there's cows right below us, and I'm like, oh my God, this shit's gonna happen. And I said, if he comes 40 yards, I'm gonna fucking hammer him, dude. But my gut is just gurgling right now, and I'm like, okay, so he's coming in, and he's like about 43 yards. So I get ready to draw back. As soon as I draw back, my ass just starts, and I just start shitting my pants. Well, at that point, you're fucked, right? Like you just got shit running down your leg. And I'm like, oh man, hell. So at that point, I didn't care though. I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't
You're
care.
gonna kill an elk. You're gonna kill an
I
elk.
had this big ass 6x6 coming right at me, 43 yards. I can't draw back. So I set it back down. I'm like, God, this. I mean, it's coming down my boots and my ankles now, right? So I'm like, oh. I re-pull back, and man, this fucking bull takes another step, and he just smells my shit. I guarantee it, and he just V-lines out of the unit. Bro. I'm telling you that right now. And so then I had to walk about, I don't know, 3 miles back with shitty pants, with no elk or nothing, man.
Yeah.
That was a story that, you know, I haven't told that many guys, but just my close guys were like, yeah, right, you're making it up. And
Why
I
would you
show them
make
the
that up?
picture. I show them the picture, and they're like, oh my God, you shit your pants. And
That's amazing. I think we've all had that fear, right? Like being in the woods, being like, "Oh man, I hope I don't shit myself," or
yeah,
down.
and
But
it is what it is. But like, yeah, I literally did that. But there was no taking my socks off and wiping because it was in my socks. You know what I mean? Like it
yeah,
was bad.
yeah.
The
I've seen
worst
some
thing,
people like cut off the bottom, like knee down of their pants to wipe it.
yo, dude, I had to just take everything off, dude. Took my jug that I was gonna clean out all the blood out, and I just had to clean out my ass. Is what I had to do. It was bad. But yeah, man. But there's so many stories, like that I have. Like, well, not that I shit myself, but yeah. Besides that, but like I said, I
Yeah,
work with these veterans in Texas called Hero Sports, and every time we go out there, and I'm not even the one really hunting. I'm just there, just hanging out, being, you know, we take a bunch of famous fighters with us, and we go out there and we go to camp, and we just have such a good time. And that, to me, I think that's what hunting is. Those are
absolutely.
the stories. Like everybody wants to kill a big elk or a big deer, but like none of that really matters. Like it's the time spent out there and who you're doing it with and why you're doing it. And to
Yeah, for
me,
sure.
those
And like
stories,
letting down your guard, man. Like just having some
yeah,
fun with some boys in the
yeah,
woods, man.
those stories are way more priceless than me shitting my pants. To me, I think, you know what I mean. Like I changed this guy's life, to
Yeah,
hang out again. He might have been in like let's keep it real. Everybody is battling something. You know what I mean? They all have, everybody's doing something in their head or whatever. And when we work with these vets, they all have their own battles they're facing. And if I could take that anger or depression mode out of them to have a good time, a good laugh, I'm gonna do it every
yeah,
fucking.
man.
You know.
That's fucking awesome. Have you read or do you know Omar Crispy Avila?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've hunted
Okay.
with him. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I read his book and like exactly what you're doing, I would say basically saved his life, right? Was it
Yep.
he hung out with Chris Kyle?
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah. Like
Yep.
awesome book. If you haven't read it, guys, get out there and read it. It's an easy read. But it's amazing. It gave me fucking goosebumps
He's
multiple times
amazing,
going through
dude.
it.
He's amazing, dude.
Yeah, yeah. I hope to meet him at some point. I live in the same
Yeah.
town.
Oh yeah. Oh really?
Yeah, yeah. We're both in New Braunfels, Texas.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Okay, okay. So yeah, I've been to his house, and
yeah.
yeah, I'll have to fucking drop you a line or something like that. Get him on the show for you.
Yeah, no, I've
Yeah,
reached out to him. He's a busy guy. He's like, if I got
he's
time, I'll
very,
do
yeah,
it. But
he's
but
very
we'll see.
busy.
Either way, what you're doing, Luke, with the veterans and the hunts is it very very well could be like in Omar's case, saving lives, man. So that's good.
Yeah, and to me, it wasn't even. I don't think that, but like now you do as you get older and stuff. But me, like I just like to have fun. You know,
Yeah.
my family, my brothers are still back in Nebraska, and me and my older brother, we hunt a lot together. He's there to support me. If he's not hunting, he's coming with me, right?
Yeah.
He just wants to be around, and we hang out. And like to me, I don't care. We whitetail hunt a lot together in November, and if he can hunt, he's gonna come with me. He knows I like to bow hunt, and he's gonna sit in the blind with me all day long. And to me, that is that's the stories, like when he's falling asleep and snoring, and a goddamn buck comes right there, and I wake him up, and I'm like, dude, shut up. And he wakes up, he's
Yeah.
like, what? And to me, those are the stories that I love about hunting
Yeah.
camp. And everybody has like, oh man, I got on this 360 bull, 350. Yeah, only so many people can relate to that story, right? Everybody
Yeah.
can relate to like, oh man, I drank too much coffee and I got shit myself. Those, those,
They won't
those
admit to it, but everyone can
yeah,
relate, man.
they can be like, oh, I've been there, done that. But you know what I mean? Like they know about they have the guy or their hunting buddy that literally falls asleep once that heater comes on and they get toasty and warm, and or the guy that just always forgets everything. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
those are the stories that I like that I can come back and talk about. You know what I mean? Like, my
Yeah.
buddy, he left his sleeping pad or a sleeping bag. What a dumbass, right? Like, um,
Yeah,
it,
I got a buddy. We were out hiking around and we saw a herd and we took off. We didn't realize it until the next day, but he left his like sissy sticks, right? His hiking
yeah.
poles. And he just left them. So like the next day I'm walking around, happened to go through the same area. They're upright, literally speared into the ground upright right where we were.
Where
And
you were.
right where we were. And then the next day we're driving in, it's in the dark. This is a November Colorado hunt, and he leaves his bino harness. And so, oh shit. So he goes back and gets his bino harness. Turns out he also left his gun, but he didn't realize that until he had come back with his bino harness. So he had to
Yeah.
take 3 trips back to camp to like collect his shit just so he could get out in the morning. So
Yep.
we all have that. We all have that buddy, man.
I've been that guy, and I've had hunted with like him. Like that's what I'm saying. Like that. Those are the stories that I like. I mean, I don't know. I mean, everybody, like me personally, like, I've shot some cool animals and I've done it. But like even now, like I get a guide now out east Colorado for antelope and this and that. And
Nice.
to me, I have more fun telling a story of like how my hunter got the job done, and he was shaking so bad, and before he pulled the trigger, he got it down. And like we go back to the cantina or the pub, and we talk about these stories. Those is what I remember the most. At it, like everybody likes big deer and big horns, but to me it's the
Yeah.
memories and the
I
camaraderie.
agree, man. I
Guys,
agree. In fact, I got one of those stories for you. You're making me think of all this stuff here
yeah,
about your passion for like the little things. But again, antelope hunt, right, in eastern
yeah.
Colorado, and I'd never done it. Neither had my buddy. We were just gonna drive out and figure it out, right? So
Hmm.
we see our first antelope, and he's like, "You're the shooter." So I'm like, "All right." So I jump out of the car, and I'm like, and they start taking off. We don't know what we're doing, and
Yeah,
so they're just running away, and I'm like, "Okay, here's what we're gonna do. You drive around, try and get in front of them, and try and push them back, and I'll hide behind this one
yeah,
bush in this giant open field, and maybe they'll come right by me because that's a solid plan." So
yeah,
I get out of the car. He's driving ahead. I lose sight of all of it, and I'm kind of looking down, kind of getting my gear ready, making sure my sights, everything's where it needs to be. Next thing I know is I just hear a horn just being blasted, just and apparently what happened is they just started running with him, and most of the herd took off and cut across the road and went over to another area which was private.
yeah,
One buck, though, however, stopped and turned around. So it turned around, so he turned around. And he didn't know what else to do. Rather than just like let it slowly come back to me or go join his friends, he tried to stay in between it and the other antelope. And so I turn around to him going 45 miles an hour down this dirt road, basically drag racing an antelope. That antelope shoots by me at like 25 yards, and there's no way I can do anything. The fastest
Right.
animal in North America, right? So this thing flies by me, and he's driving down the road, and dirt's kicked up everywhere, and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Like, and then it's going straight towards this fence, and I'm like, all right, maybe they'll stop at that fence. I hear they go under these fences, and it's maybe 60, 70 yards. But it liquid terminators that shit. It doesn't
Oh,
slow down a step,
hell
and
no, right?
it's through that fence. One of
Yeah.
the coolest things I've ever seen. But to this day, like me and my buddy laugh about him just like literally drag racing an antelope. It was amazing. He's like, it was for me, it was super cool because the antelope ran by me at like 10 yards. It was
Yep.
great, just crazy, man.
It's so crazy because you think you put the right plan together and it just shits on you right away,
Right,
right?
right away. I mean, I was out of the car, 100 degrees. I was out of the car for maybe 3
Yep.
minutes when all that
Yep.
shit went down.
I
Which
know.
is fine. We didn't know what we were doing. We learned later. You don't stop the car when you see the antelope because then they'll
Yep.
they'll
It's
bugger
it's
off. You
just
just gotta.
hard hunting. And those animals are so hard unless you're sitting over water in a blind, you could get them with the boat. Because I mean, I've done it, shooting those, you know, 70, 80-yard bombs at antelope. Don't get me wrong, I've done it. It's just fucking stock after stock, and
Yep.
it's so hard, right?
Yeah.
To me,
I just like the reps. You don't get
yeah,
many reps like that
yeah,
Western big
yeah.
game. So
I actually put in this year for a muzzleloader antelope, and
nice.
I've never done it, and I feel like, you know what, man, it's something that I've never done with muzzleloader, and I just feel like it'll be just as fun with that than a bow. You know what I mean? I have a better
I think
chance.
so, man. I think
It's
so. I
just
felt like we were talking about that. They were constantly at like 90 yards, like outside of
yeah,
bow range. But if we
yeah,
had a
yeah.
muzzleloader
It's
or a
they know,
rifle,
man. It's
yeah,
crazy, and it to me, it's just like, and then if you wait till the rut kicks in October when there's rifle season, you throw a decoy out, those antelope come right on you at, 40, 50 yards, full sprint. They want to check you out.
yeah,
And it's so nuts, like, man, why don't they change this to bow season, please? You know what I mean? Like, but,
seriously.
you know, it is, like I said, man, my stories are, I enjoy more other people success now. Like, I can't wait, like, just like you, I bet you cannot wait to have your kids in the field with you. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. I'm trying to get my little guy out for a hog hunt as soon as I have access to like some hog country. And
Uh-huh.
realistically, I don't think we're gonna do any hunting. It's just gonna be me and him sitting in the blind. I'm gonna bring a bunch of candy. I'm gonna make it an experience for
Yep.
him so
Make
that
it
like
fun.
he gets excited to go back.
Yep.
He
That's
doesn't
how
really
you got
get
to do.
tablet time and he doesn't get candy. But we're gonna get there. He'll get tablet time. He'll get candy. Even if I saw something, I'm not quite sure he's old enough for me to like spirit with with a bow
Yeah.
and arrow.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
don't
more
know,
about
man. Like,
just getting out there with him.
I guess it's just all about if he sees you shooting your bow a lot. Like I get my kids
Yeah,
out shoot my bow a lot now, especially it gets nice out. And you know, we got turkeys here, so hopefully I get whenever my tag gets here, I will go out and try to call these turkeys in. I'm gonna put up a blind, and I'm just gonna sit in there with him and try to call, and I'm gonna give
yeah,
him the box call and let him rip it, because I don't care if I get it. I just want the experience of him. I want them to gobble back at him, and just
yeah.
get him involved. So I don't know, man. Like that's what I'm excited for, because you know you got to watch what you ask for, because every time, we were at the dentist with him the other day. Like, so what do you do, Marcus? Oh, we're gonna shoot a turkey in the face.
That's the
So,
exact thing my son says. Is like we have a lot of
yeah,
deer walking around. Every time he
yeah,
sees a deer in the backyard, he's like, "Dad,
shoot
let's
it,
go shoot it in the
shoot it, yeah.
face." And I'm like,
That's it.
"You're
That's everything. And
funny,
I'm
man."
like, oh, my wife's looking at me like shaking her head, like, and I'm like,
Right?
well, you know, screw it.
Yeah.
I'd rather have that than all being scared of it. So I don't
Yeah.
know. That's just me as a dad now, and as a hunter, like I'm proud to be a hunter, and I'm proud to raise my kid in it, and There's here in Colorado, there's a lot of like anti-hunters here and this
Yep.
and that. And I'm just like, man, you know, I just don't get it. Like it's okay for them to go buy food at the grocery store and they think, that magically just appeared on their plate, in the store, and
Yeah,
they
man.
don't really have no knowledge of the whole thing. And it's just sad. There's a lot of people that just not educated in the whole thing.
Absolutely. I told you I lived up in the Boulder County area. When I
Oh, you
started
were
hunting,
you were thick
dude,
in it.
I know more at the time. Now it's changed, but at the time I knew more vegetarians than I did hunters, and so
Yeah,
definitely had some interesting conversations. And
I bet.
some of them are really respectful and really
Yeah,
do want to learn. Other ones not so much. So you never know what you're gonna get.
I
But
know,
we're
and
off
that
topic, Luke. Man,
I
we're off.
know.
This always
I'm
happens,
telling you,
but
my bad, man, my bad.
you're easy to talk to. I get it. But let's dive back into some stories. We don't need to talk about hippies and vegans and anti-hunters.
Yeah,
That's for
exactly,
somebody else's podcast.
exactly.
But what other stories you got for us, bud?
Man, the other story that comes in the mind is just, as a kid, um, when I first got into hunting, was pheasant hunting is what really
Hmm.
got me into it. And the first time I got my dad got me a 12 gauge shotgun, and I'm like 13 years old, and you know, my dad was not a very big hunter, but he got us into it. And we did it, and I thank him for it. And we went out in this field, and he had his shotgun, I had my shotgun, and it was just the two of us. And I got other siblings, but I don't know what the deal was, but it was just me and my dad, and it was something that I'll never forget. An experience that that I will remember for the rest of my life. We're just talking pheasant hunting. We're just pheasant hunting, just waiting for birds to pop up and we can shoot it. Well, we walked a lot of these freaking CRP fields and we didn't get shit, right?
Yeah.
And I'm
What is,
tired.
if you don't mind me asking? I've never
Yeah.
hunted Nebraska. CRP. What does that stand for?
So this like shit, that's a good question. They're just like tall grass where
Okay.
it's the pheasant habitat, and it's so like Nebraska has like a lot of these walk-in lands where
Hmm.
they throw birds in and just you know what our conservation dollars go to, for
Got it.
public
Okay,
access.
that makes sense.
And it's just their habitat. It's what they live in Nebraska. And so we are walking this tons of these CRP and things, and we're like, damn, I wish I had a dog right now because it'd make our job a whole lot easier. And if anybody's ever you have you fuzzed hunting?
No, no, I've never got
Okay,
around to it. I had a buddy buy a bird dog, and we were planning on it, and then his dog
yeah.
just does not have the
So
demeanor for it. So
yeah,
it's
so
still on my
anybody who
list.
ever pheasant hunts, like they get it. And um so we're walking and walking, and we all I wanted to do is have one bird, to literally just show my brothers and my sister, my family, my mom. And I was like, oh, look what me and dad got, but we didn't see shit. And I'm getting tired, I'm getting frustrated. I'm like, my dad's like, yeah, you ready to go back? And I was like, let's do one more field, dad. And when you don't got these dogs, you pretty much just literally got to step on these pheasants to pop them up, because it's so thick.
Yeah,
Well, we're walking back pretty much the same path that we, you know, literally just walked through, right? And came from my shoulder, my shotgun's over my shoulder. I'm just kind of just doing the safety thing, walking back. My dad's doing the same thing, not expecting anything. And I literally step on a pheasant. And if you ever hear them, they like make this noise, and they all pop up. And it's not one pheasant, it's like usually like five or six, right?
yeah.
And it scared the shit out of me so bad. I fell down, I jumped up, and I was screaming. My dad was laughing so hard. he could not even shoot. He was more worried about me, right? But he was laughing so hard because I was screaming so bad, like I didn't know what to expect. And I stepped literally on a hen, and all these roosters jumped up. Well, we seen these roosters, they only went like, you know, 40 yards into the field, so they went back down. So we were hoping that we'd get them again, and those birds, they run so fast too when they're in the thicket.
Yeah.
So we're laughing, and my heart is just racing, just like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. About, it knocked me on my ass, like literally, like I fell down, and me and my dad were laughing about it. And we're about, I don't know, 20 yards from the truck, same thing, and that whole flock flies up, and my dad's like, shoot, shoot, and boom, I got one, and that pheasant is mounted in my house right now, because that was we laughed because we knew it was a hen that popped up and knocked me out, and you can't shoot hens, right? Like, you're not supposed to shoot those hens.
Yeah.
And
How do you
but
tell the
it not
difference? Sorry, I don't know anything about
yeah,
this. Is it
it's
the
just
tails or?
the color of the bird, the
Okay.
tails. Like, you can pretty much see right away, like if it's a hen or a rooster, right, when they're
Okay.
flying. um but yeah, it's and you know I'm sure a lot of guys have had hunters that just pull the trigger and, oh shit, I should have shot that, right? Like, it
Yeah.
happens. Like, it
Instead of land
happens
in the
really.
grass and go away. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that when I shot this and I finally it went down, well, we were screaming up and down, Jeff, but I was so happy because literally we hunted all afternoon for these freaking pheasant. And, we started thinking, like, how many birds did we walk past in all these fields, and we came back and they popped up, 20 yards from our truck. It was
It's
crazy, dude.
it's like my hog
But
story, man. I hunted all
yeah,
day, didn't see a damn thing, and then get back to
yeah,
the truck, and it's
exactly.
just surrounded by hogs.
Yeah, and it was just something I told my dad. I was like, man, I'm gonna get this mounted. He was like, why? It's a pheasant. I said, because I was with you, man. You know. Now
Yeah,
that's my one and only bird that I've ever mounted, and I have it in my house to this day.
that's
Uh,
awesome, man.
just because it's a memory that I got a picture of me and my dad there, and it's just something that, to me, you know, you don't realize like what they've done for you until you have kids, right? Like,
Yeah.
as being a dad now, like, I was a spoiled little punk, man. I hated it. Like, now that I have kids, I hated my parents giving me curfew. I hated I could spend the night at my buddy's house. Well, I know why now, you know,
Yeah.
and they're just looking after me. They want to
Yeah.
protect me.
That's the truth,
Um,
man.
and when I had my daughter, shoot, I remember like 3 months later, I called my parents and I said, I'm sorry for
Yeah.
putting you through all this stuff, let alone being a fighter,
Yeah.
going
Right.
into cages, and what I did to you, I had no
Yeah.
idea.
I know
And
exactly what you're saying, Luke. Man, when I had my kids, well, when I had my son first, right? So
yeah,
I love my folks. Don't get me wrong. I always have loved my folks, but like they were just my parents to me until I had kids, and I was like, holy shit, man! I love this little person so much. And then you think, wait a minute, my parents love
I,
me that much. Oh
exactly.
man, it's like I got to be nicer to my folks because
Yeah,
it would
they do so
crush me to
much.
do some of the things I did to my folks.
Oh man, I'm telling you, man, I was a little shit ass dude. I just having kids was the best thing, you know, for me. And I don't know that, those are the stories that I can't wait to hear and tell, is when my
Yeah,
kids get to go out, and like I said, man, yeah, man, everybody wants to smack down a big animal and brag about it and talk to it and tell, put it on the IG now. But like, I'm telling you, man, I have way more stories of just going out in the field and being unsuccessful. And I've had a great time doing
yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, I'm with you. Have you? Let me ask you this. This is a little unrelated, but it's about going hunting with your kids. You know the Western Hunt Fest boys or the Pack Rat
Yeah,
Apparel guys?
yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard Jeff Duvall and his story? He was on the podcast with Efren. No, I'm not. No, it was Jeff. It was Jeff and his
Yeah.
boys. He took them out elk hunting, and they call in an elk.
Really? No, I haven't heard this one.
Oh man, it's amazing. I won't. I'll either let you talk to Jeff and he can tell you about
Yeah.
it, or you can listen to my podcast. It's actually episode 27.
Okay, I will.
But dude, he even has a video of it, and it's amazing. Like it's the last day of the season, and he's not thinking anything's gonna happen. It's like, yeah, you fucking go for it, boys. Do whatever you want. And they're bugling, and all of
Rip
a
it.
sudden they get one back, and the
No
video
way.
is amazing, man. It's amazing. Yeah,
That's awesome.
have Jeff tell you. It's such a good story.
Yeah, next time ask Jeff if he's ever
Yeah.
been beat by a Nebraska wrestler.
All right. I hope he won't admit to it, but I'll ask
Yeah,
him.
no, he better admit to it because he got his ass. I like those
that's
guys.
awesome.
Those guys are fun, man.
Dude, they're
I-
super fun.
They're super good guys, and I love what they do, and yeah, they're just good people, man. They really
For
are.
sure. For sure, man. Well, Luke, man, this has been fun. I know I only asked an hour of your time, and with a couple delays, we're now at an hour and a half. So
Hey!
if you want to tell any more stories, man, I'm not going to stop you. But
Man,
if we want to wrap it up, I think we're at a nice point here.
Yeah, I tell you what, man. Let's get back on another one later. Now, when you have a cancellation or something like that, you hit me back up because I'll be down to always talk to you and help you out and do whatever. Like I said, man, it's just nice get on another podcast because I know what it's like to start out, and I have had some people to help me out, be on the show and push it, and that's where I'm at today because it's not all about me, man. It's all about the people you have on and help, spread the word.
For sure, man. I appreciate that. And I'll be honest, no one's invited back until at least a year after they've been on. And that's because it's not surprising at all, really. Every hunter wants to tell their favorite stories. So I've got a huge list of people that want to come on.
Awesome.
Good sometimes scheduling stuff. But that being said, I'm absolutely going to be in touch and we'll get you back on. Hopefully you don't shit yourself between then and now because I don't want to hear that story or another version of that story.
Damn
again,
it.
man.
I knew I should have told you that one. Yeah. Whenever you come back to Colorado, look me up. We'll put you on the mic and we'll have a good time.
We'll see, bud. We'll see. Yeah, I'm trying to get up. I'll be there in July. I'm going to try and be there in June as well for the Western Hunt Fest. But
nice.
We'll talk about that later. So, Luke, let's wrap this thing up. Why don't we tell the people where they can find you? Just share whatever information you want to. Obviously, Gladiators Unleashed.
Yeah. So my podcast is GU Unfiltered. It's on every platform: Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, all of the above. My IG is GU Unfiltered for the podcast, but I do all my stuff at Gladiators Unleashed. So, same thing with Facebook. But yeah, man, that's it, man. I appreciate the time.
Of course, brother. And I'll put all that stuff in the show notes. So if anybody wants to find Luke, man, just go click there, easy clicks, and definitely check out his podcast. They're a lot of fun. He's got a great bar and basically right there on the podcast video, and you guys have a hell of a good time.
Yeah,
good conversation.
We have way too much fun around here.
All right, man. Well, thank you again. I appreciate you.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it. Another couple stories in the books. I want to thank Luke, of course, for coming on the podcast. He had some good stories, he had some shitty stories. You know what I mean? But thank you, Luke. We couldn't have done it without you. Make sure you check out the show notes with all the Gladiator Unleashed links in there. You can to the website, the Facebook, the Instagram, the podcast. It's all right there. And make sure you give Luke a follow. Check out what he's doing because it's some pretty cool stuff, and he's got some amazing guests on his podcast. That being said, guys, I want to thank you all as well, of course, for tuning into the podcast, and get out there and share it. We want more people to hear it so that more people are reaching out and telling some crazy stories. And that being said, if you're new and you've got some crazy stories, reach out. We'd love to have you on. I think my favorite kind of guests are the folks that just randomly reach out and say, you got to hear this. So that's it, guys. Thank you again. I appreciate it, Luke. Thank you. Now, everybody, get out there and make some stories of your own.